I've been reporting on politics since like August 2012 exclusively, and I did a lot of political coverage before then. But to explain how I got into the business, it's kind of a family business for me. My dad was in Chicago radio for almost 30 years. He did FM radio news in Chicago at what used to be WCLR, which used to be in Skokie and is now WTMX, the Eric and Kathy show in the mornings, 101.9. He was on that show for a number of years, but he sort of rode the radio. He was at one station in Chicago for 29 years, which in commercial FM radio is like nutso. Like that never happens. So I kind of grew up in radio stations. Like my dad used to have to cut up his show for Sunday morning, and when I was like a little kid, my parents were divorced, so he'd kind of like stick me in a studio, give me some fake newscasts, turn on the mic, shut the door, and like go work, and I would just read news. Like not real news, because I was like 7 or something. But so I kind of had just grown up always doing this, which is also why I never really thought of doing it as a job. It was just like the fun thing that I did while my dad was working. So I got to college, I studied fiction writing because I got really into writing and storytelling. And I realized that I didn't really want to sit behind a desk for like 6 hours a day because I'm not a laid back person. I'm not relaxed. I need to like do stuff, So then I was working like a construction job in the morning after college, and I was mixing drinks at night. And there was this guy who used to come into this restaurant that I was managing who was the GM at a public radio station in the Quad Cities in Illinois, which is in pretty much dead across the state in Rock Island, Illinois, Rock Island, Davenport, Moline. And he was like, hey, you have a good voice? And I was like, yeah, it's sort of genes. I didn't really do anything about that. He's like, have you ever thought of radio? I was like, yeah, kind of, a little bit, And I got an internship that turned into a job in like a couple weeks, and I just like fell in love with it. Like I never thought of doing radio. I'd always listened to public radio because I grew up, my dad absurdly like worked in commercial radio, so he never wanted to listen to commercial radio because he's like, this reminds me of work. So we just listened to public radio, which is kind of boring when you're a kid, to be totally honest. But I fell in love with it, and I just got the bug, as my dad always said, and that's where I went. I went to, so I worked in the Quad Cities for about a year and a half, and then I went to graduate school at Northwestern for journalism and was out in DC for a little while and totally hated that. Don't go to DC, that's my advice for the day. And then, yeah, don't write that down. That's recording, that's great. And then I got this job back here in March 2010, and I've pretty much been doing that since then. So. Public radio is tempered by this lovely thing that we call mission, which is like we have this idea of what journalism should be and the kind of public service we should provide, and we still care about our numbers because we still gotta like eat dinner and keep the lights on and stuff like that. But like you also have people always asking themselves the question like, all right, is this the right thing to do? Is this the story we should cover? Even if this is sexy, like do people really care about it? So it's a very different atmosphere, but it's also really cool because people all believe in that. Like people I work with all believe in the type of journalism we do. And I guess that's the other main different thing about public radio and my job versus commercial radio is that my job is like, now as a beat reporter covering politics is like 10% radio, 15% radio. It's all journalism. Like most of my day is calling people on the phone, getting stories, researching things, meeting with sources, like the vast majority of, like this stuff, this whole series that you heard was all about, I call it the dark arts of politics, but basically it's like, it's an election year, you're gonna hear a bunch of crazy crap from candidates, a lot of talking points, a lot of BS, a lot of spin, and my whole idea was like, this is how this stuff gets made, right? This is how they come up with these messages that they tell you, this is why they try to spin you, this is all the money that goes into trying to influence your vote, and it's crazy. It's like people trying to sell Coca-Cola to you, right? This, like, I really wanted to do a good job because I had so much, I just got lucky. God was just like, here's the best tape ever. I got such good tape from these people, And that's half the job is getting good tape. It's not just like being a good writer or a good reporter. Like radio, you gotta get the tape. Like it doesn't matter. You gotta actually have these good experiences. It's not just about like being able to write pretty stuff. So it's weird because you kind of gotta make it happen, Which is why like I asked him, like, put me in the closet, take me to the closet. Like I can't just sit there and have him tell me about the closet because who cares about it? It's great, you have a closet, that's wonderful. Like, you gotta get up, let's go to the closet, what's it look like? Rattle the drapes, and like, oh, okay, show me this, you know? I don't know how many times as a radio reporter, I walk around with a microphone just saying, show me this, let's do that, you know? We have to do this. If people are boring, I'm just like, okay, you're boring, give me a tour of your house. Like, I need to give people something to look at. Show me around your house, maybe something exciting will happen. So, so you have to work kind of extra hard to get the good tape, but when it comes down to it, like, I had 6 or 7 hours of tape from all of this that I had to get down into like 9 minutes. I wouldn't have my job without my internship, so I think it depends on the shop, but internships are huge. I mean, if you can get a good internship at some place, and some of our interns now are getting multiple internships, which is scary because I think people get abused with that stuff. But like, it's gigantic. I think, like, especially if it's at a place where there's a chance of them hiring you, it's sort of like a test run. Like, they get to see if you're the person who gets stuff right, who's fast, who works your butt off, who sounds good, but it's also like a time for you to still screw up. Like, you still need that freedom to totally screw up and just totally drop the ball. You have to have that when you're starting out. You know what I mean? But my internship, I took time off from Northwestern to do an internship at WBEZ for like 3 months. And when this job opened up, my former boss, when I was an intern, called me and was like, hey, you should apply to this job. And I was like, okay. He was hiring for it, so it was a good sign that he was wanting me to apply for it. So it's huge. I mean, it's a really good networking opportunity, but it's also just good to you can get some clips, you know, at the very least you'll leave with some radio stuff. Like, it's as far as now in journalism goes, I don't know anyone who I work with who wasn't an intern at least one place before they got hired.